Welcome back to Outdoors with Larry Ray on 790 The Bet. Brought to you proudly by the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency and Wally Hatchett's Comfort Food and Drinks at 6439 Summer Avenue.
And we're back with Outdoors with Larry Ray. I'm Tony Dolly, sitting in for Larry this week. And Ron, you're our fishing expert, and we're about to talk to a pretty fair fisherman himself. Why don't I throw this to you, Ron, and you just introduce our next guest and start asking some questions.
Will do. Thank you very much, Tony, and good morning, everybody, again. Hey, our next guest is a very, very good friend of mine, a professional crappie fisherman who by himself won a American Crappie Trail tournament on the Alabama River earlier this year, and last month on Lake Darbone, he fished by himself again, and he won Angler of the Year. A great guy, a great fisherman. That's Kyler Beckmann. Good morning, Kyler. How are you?
Good morning, Ron. I'm doing good.
Yeah. Listen, you know, the story is, and I think a lot of people know, and we've talked about it, but last year, well, you started fishing the American Crappie Trail with your dad, Shannon Beckmann, and unfortunately we lost him last year, and so you took it upon yourself to continue the team fishing by yourself. You guys have come close to winning tournaments before, several second places, never Angler of the Year, and you took it upon yourself and really made it happen on the Alabama River and on Lake Darbone. Talk to our listeners about what that means for you.
Oh, it means the world to me. I don't know, that the drive that I had trying to finish that year was just unbelievable. That's all I could think about is I had to finish that. Honestly, I don't know what I would have done if I wouldn't have got it won. I mean, that was my only thing on my mind, was trying to finish what Dad and I had started together, and that was my main goal, was just trying to get that one. So I mean, it means everything to me.
You know, you did a wonderful job, Kyler. Down on the Alabama River, we had rising water, we had cold weather, we had everything else. And you did something that most people probably wouldn't do under those conditions. Tell our listeners how you caught your fish to win that tournament.
I caught him out on the main river, right out in the current.
Yeah, right.
And what I was doing is I found fish throughout the week that was holding out there on the main river. So instead of having to fish, you know, a long stretch of bank or a long, you know, stretch of that river around them certain areas, all I had to do was just fish really specific spots, and I could move around really quick and do that. So it was all a timing thing. I had several of them found, and I just cycled through them all day long and to get what I got.
Now, when you're fishing current like that, are you using a bigger jig or a heavier jig, or, you know?
On that one there, I was just using a 3/16, and I was letting the current do all the work for me. I was just swimming it by him. Is basically all I was doing, just pitching it out there and letting the current sweep, just like if you're trout fishing in a river. Just, you know,
right.
Just let the current do the work for you, and that's what I did out there.
Wow, that's awesome. And then the next month, you go to Lake Darbone for the National Championship Tournament here at the American Crappie Trail. And again, you're met with cold fronts, rain, lower than normal water levels there at Darbone. How did you find your fish there? I mean, you finished very well high in that tournament, but more importantly, it got you enough points to finish as Angler of the Year for American Crappie Trail. Tell our listeners, Kyler, how you did it at Darbone.
Yeah, I had a really good tournament there. Also, I ended up finishing in 7th, and how I did it there was just covering a bunch of water. I had a couple areas found where I knew that there were some big ones, and actually one of the areas I found it during a thunderstorm. Everyone else wasn't out on the lake, and the lake had gotten real calm during that storm, and I was able to go out there on the main body, and that's where I found the biggest fish that I knew of. And I just wasn't able to fish it until the last day of the tournament, because that was finally the first day that there wasn't like 3-footers out there. And so I had that saved all week, and man, it really paid off being able to finally get out there and catch those fish, because that really jumped me up the ladder.
Yeah, and you did very well. Kyler, you can't do this professional fishing by yourself. You got to have family, you got to have sponsors, and a lot of support. Tell our listeners your sponsors and your family and how you get all the support.
Man, I've got the best family and friends of anyone in the business, I think. They all support me 100%. Bailey is a huge part of my success. She takes care of everything while I'm gone. I don't have to think about it.
She does a great job. She sure does.
Absolutely. And then sponsors, I couldn't ask for better companies to support and back me. I've got Racetrack, Lucas Oil, Edgar Rods, which I have my own Signature Series rod out, Slime Line, Crappie Monster, Pro-Built Jigs. I've got a long list. And JB's Fish Sauce, I'm sure I'm probably going to forget some of them, and I hate that, but anyone can check out my Facebook page and follow me, and they can see about all the stuff that I use. All the products are great. They all catch fish.
Yeah. You know, you just mentioned JB's Fish Sauce. I think that's the only company that has a waxworm attractant. And tell our listeners about the waxworm attractant. What makes it special for crappie fishing?
Well, anyone in the crappie industry knows that there's been several tournaments won, especially by the great Ronnie Capps and Steve Coleman, and they caught them using waxworms. And I actually came up with that idea about 4 years ago now, and it took 2 years to develop it. And finally, my good buddy Corey Weaver over there at JB's Fish Sauce, I call him the mad scientist. Somehow he figured out how to make it, and it works great. Like that stuff has won me a lot of money.
Yes, it has. Like you said, you know, Capps and Coleman made waxworms famous in the crappie industry, using them to win some tournaments, and that really happens. Moving forward, what are your goals?
Moving forward, I'd really like to try to win Angler of the Year again, and I'd like to win a national championship. So that's kind of my national championship is my next main thing I'd like to try to win, and obviously I'd like to do a repeat and try to win Angler of the Year again 2 years in a row. Yeah,
Kyler, you have a full-time job fishing, and I do mean a job, because, you know, I've been in the boat with you, and I can't tell you how much I learn every time I get in a boat with you and how you teach. But you do that through your guide service. Tell our listeners, one, how do they get a hold of you? Because you have such a way of teaching, and that's going to be on Truman Lake or maybe Lake of the Ozarks, but mostly on Truman Lake there in Missouri, a great crappie lake, and so is Lake of the Ozarks. But tell our listeners, what can they expect if they go fishing with you, and how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I do full time. I'm a full time guide. We have a ton. I mean, you can talk to any of my clients. We have a lot of fun out on the boat. Catch a lot of fish, and you're right. I do try to do a lot of teaching so people understand what we're actually doing, and so they can go out and do it themselves. But yeah, you can get a hold of me either through Facebook. I have a Facebook page, Kyler Beckmann Fishing, or you can get a hold of me by my phone number. Either text or call me, and I'll respond to you as soon as I can. 573-789-3263 is my number.
And, you know, one of the things that you try to do is, you know, as everybody knows, is forward-facing graphics that people use now, whether it's Live Scope, Active Target, or any of those. You tend to try to teach people, people like me. I'm like in pre-K learning that stuff. But, you help them by showing them what to look for, what does a fish look like, what does your bait look like on the screen and everything.
Yep,
how hard
absolutely.
is it to teach people?
I mean, shoot, that stuff isn't cheap, and I figure, I really like people to try to learn what they've dumped all their money into, and I go through and show you exactly what to look for, what a crappie is, and show you how to approach that crappie as far as different presentations to try to make it bite. It's a lot of fun. It's hard to explain without seeing it. Best recommendation is come hop on the boat with me, and I'll show you.
Well, I got to tell you something. Like I said earlier, I've learned so much being in the boat with you, and what to look for. And, I look forward to doing it again soon, probably after tournament season here. Now, do you crappie fish, do you guide year-round?
Yep, guide year-round. The only time we don't run any trips is if the lake's froze over.
And that can happen there in Missouri.
It does happen time to time. If it's not too thick, we'll bust it. But if it's too thick to bust, then we'll have to sit it out.
And, oh, by the way, you talk about Edgar rods. You've got your own signature series rod too, don't you?
Yes, sir.
And talk a little bit about your signature series rods.
Yeah, I really like it. They've done really well for me. The rods themselves, we built them with a fairly stiff backbone, not too much. I don't like one that's like a broomstick. And then the tip of it is actually kind of a fast action tip, and it's real soft and sensitive, especially if you're using a lot of smaller sized hooks. You don't have to worry about pulling them hooks out. That was the whole idea behind it. But you can swing in. I've swung in a 3.5 pound spotted bass with it. So, I mean, you can swing in a 3 pound crappie if that's your thing. For me personally, it's not. I'd rather use a dip net, but that's just me. But it's a good rod. I highly recommend anyone checking them out to look for a good crappie rod.
Well, Kyler, this is Tony Dolly again. Did you when you're guiding over in Missouri, do you find a lot of differences guiding in Missouri or fishing tournaments in Arkansas or Louisiana or Mississippi or wherever you might be?
I can tell you one thing. Truman Lake is one of the best numbers lakes in the country. I can go out on Truman and show you 5 times as many fish as I've seen all week. It's just got a lot of fish in it. It's an awesome fishery. Literally about anywhere you go on that pond, you can just drop your trolling motor down and find a crappie. Might not be a big one, but it's an amazing fishery.
Well, again, congratulations on your Angler of the Year and win, and we sure appreciate you being here on the show on Larry Outdoors with Larry Ray, and we look forward to having you back on the show again if you have time.
Absolutely, I'd love to be back, and thank you so much for being on here.
You bet. And
appreciate it.
We'll be right back, folks, with more Outdoors with Larry Ray. This is Tony Dolly, and we'll be right back.